Hi, I'm Abi and this is Lucy, and we're from Infectious PR presenting a talk on an introduction to PR. We have, I'm trying to think how many a day, probably like 3 or 4 emails a day from artists that come in who would like to work with us. They could be enormous or they could be really, really small. The thing with us as an agency is we would never necessarily work a track that we didn't think that we could deliver results for, and we are really particular about it. You know, yeah, what we were saying earlier, we wouldn't want to charge someone money for something that we couldn't deliver results on.
We get quite a lot of, you know, people who maybe haven't actually bothered to take the time to look at our socials or our website and figure out where our strengths sit and what kind of artists we have a track record of working with. So, you know, we might get like a rock band from the US, which is great, and, you know, lots of the team favourably, you know, that might be suited to their personal tastes, but in terms of our contacts, that isn't necessarily where our strengths sit. So I would say the first thing, if you guys are ever releasing music and, you know, you're looking to get a promotional partner on board and you want to work with an agency, the most important thing is to just research the agency and be like, okay, are they suited to me, or is there someone else who would be better?
Yeah, we do find ourselves like recommending other agencies, don't we? If we don't necessarily feel like we're the best fit, we can say, oh, you know, this agency is quite good, and, you know, even though like they are a competitor, sometimes it returns in our favour as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think branding, you know, you've obviously touched on that really, but just if you can, I think at the point where you hire an agency, you want to have a decent level of online presence. You want your socials to be looking quite nice and slick and like really consistent.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you need to have thousands of followers by any stretch, but
unfortunately, unfortunately, like social media is a really key thing. I'd say less so for radio. Radio isn't a visual platform. It's more about the track and, you know, sonically whether it will work with a certain station, but 100% for press.
Yeah, and I think it shows like a level of effort between an artist and how serious they are about their career. So if you've gone on their Instagram page and they've got one post and they don't follow anyone, it doesn't look great. Like, you know that they're not necessarily putting their legwork themselves, because there are so many things that an artist obviously can do without having hired an agency, especially like obviously in radio as well. So probably the next point would be like knowing your goals. What do you want from hiring the agency? So as Lucy mentioned, clients sometimes have really clear expectations of what they want. So they might say, you know, I want a Radio 1 play and I'd like a mixed mag front cover, but they are a very small artist. It's our job to say to them, great that that's your goals, but, you know, that is a really long-term one. We don't necessarily think we could help with that now, but these are the things that we could do up till then, but you're not going to see those results straight away, which is sometimes a bit of a difficult conversation to have, but...
Yeah, it is. I think we always try and... I like to think we're quite generous, really, with our time in terms of, particularly if it is local people.
Yeah.
With advising, you know, we think the music's brilliant and we definitely think there's potential here, but we would suggest doing X, Y, and Z first before looking to hire an agency. I think knowing your audience kind of feeds into that as well, really, like who, you know, where do you want to be? Do a bit of research, listen to the radio station that you want to be on. Don't just go into it blind, because at the end of the day, it's going to make both our jobs harder if you don't actually know what you want. And it is, of course, our job when we work with someone and we take on a new client, it's our job to outline what we think is realistic and what they can expect. But it's also really nice if an artist has a bit of an idea of what they want. And yeah, who their audience is. You know, that we might work with some people who are British-based, but their music isn't really particularly suited here. It's much more suited to like the US, therefore, what are your goals, and are you going to go and do a US tour, and all of those things. We kind of want to see that they've been clearly thought out from the client side.
That sort of fits in with the marketing drivers as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if someone has had a level of success, you know, it'd be really great to see that in an email. So that could be things like, what DJs have played your track before, has a publication given you like a good write-up before?
Yeah.
you know, quite a lot of the not pictures, quite a lot of the emails we get recently are like, this person has 100,000 followers on TikTok, which wasn't necessarily a thing, but you know that they're good content creators. So from a PR point of view, that's great.
Yeah.
And like BBC Introducing is another thing.
So BBC Intro, we are so lucky to have this in the UK. Like, lots of countries do not have this platform. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with it. So there's like 37 regional BBC stations, which they are, you know, that doesn't encompass Radio 1, Radio 2, Six Music. There's like BBC Gloucestershire, BBC Bristol, BBC Worcestershire, you know, the list goes on for every region. And the BBC Introducing shows are shows which are opportunities for new artists to get their music played. The presenters select the music every single week, and the shows go out on all of the regional stations. So I'm sure you guys might have even, you know, uploaded tracks and had them supported. And I would generally always, if I get someone come to me and they say, I you know, I've got this release and I really want a radio campaign, one of the first things I'll look to is to see whether they've uploaded their music in the past to BBC Introducing. Sometimes I actually am quite honest with people and I say, look, this track's amazing, but if you've never uploaded to BBC Introducing, go and do that, get some support, get these guys on your side, and then come back to me 2-3 releases down the line, because ultimately, like, ethically, we don't want to take someone's money and charge an independent artist a fee for a campaign when there are things they could be doing themselves before they come and invest. And I think that's, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give, really, is if you've got music ready to go, get it out there yourself, do a bit of legwork yourself, find out who is on those stations that I showed you earlier, Nudes and NTS, and, you know, whatever is relevant to the genre of music that you might be working with or making. Have a look at some people who have shows and connect with them, slide into their DMs, see if they've got a show coming up, send them the track. Like, don't be afraid to push yourself out there, and then look at hiring an agency, because if at the end of the day, like, we don't have a magic wand, we have contacts and we have knowledge and we can suggest a strategy for stuff, but there are never, ever, ever any guarantees, even for the biggest artists in the game. You know, there's been campaigns we've worked on and unfortunately it hasn't connected in a way that maybe they thought it might. So I would always say to save yourself investing in something when you're still at a really early stage, just like see what you can do yourself, and there is a lot that you can do. And then, obviously other things like, you know, you've mentioned a little bit about journalists approaching people. You know, there's local publications local to the area that you live in. Just try and get a bit of support and try and get some people to champion you, because when you do then approach an agency, it just adds a bit more weight to your kind of pitch.